I'm Matt Booker.
I'm Dave Laird, and welcome to episode 89, part 2. It's the best of 2025 year in review.
And it's almost 2027.
Happy New Year, Matt. In middle of February here, February 16th, day of recording. You know, we're just, we get to it when we can at this point.
We do our own timeline.
After 10 years.
we do our own timeline. And, it was fun recording with Stefan
Babcock. It was so fun. That was one of the biggest highlights of my whole time ever doing this show, I'd say.
For your sake, I'm really happy we got to do that. He was a really smart dude, and
he was fantastic.
The only downside is we didn't have much time to talk about our own year-end reading, and so that's what we're going to do today.
So it is. I feel like we should probably recognize the news that we woke up to this morning, which we categorize under the worst of 2026, which is the passing away of Michael Silverblatt, legendary KCRW bookworm radio host. That's a atrocious blow to this community, I think, and we're really sad to hear about his passing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say he was a friend of the show. He was aware that our show existed, and
right.
I did get to speak with him on the phone a bunch, I would say,
right, yeah.
Starting in 2019, just before, up until about COVID hit. And, for people who don't know, he had been sick for many years with dementia and Alzheimer's, as well as like brain cancer, I think. And so this was not like totally unexpected news. I mean, his show has been off the air for years, and so
it's been 2 or 3, maybe even 4.
Maybe longer. They did put out a collection of his work, but it's such a loss for the literary world, and for he was probably the number one all-time greatest interviewer of living writers, right?
Yeah.
And so the chance to sort of learn from him, we have his archives to go back to, but really sad that he's gone. Like I personally will miss his voice in this space, and have missed it for years.
Totally.
He's such a fascinating person, interesting guy, and I think maybe we'll have more to say on this later. But his legacy will live on in many ways. He was the sort of product of a different time. He was a big supporter of David Foster Wallace, obviously. It was a big booster for John Barth, and many other writers that came out of that time. But R.I.P. Michael Silverblatt. You will be missed.
There's a picture that Deb Olin Unferth shared on the Wallace listserv today of him at home, and above his, like in his bookcase above him, there was like 5 or 6 first edition copies of Infinite Jest. On the
what I thought was interesting there was one of them was the 2-volume galley of Infinite Jest,
nice
of which there's only a handful of those in existence, and so I didn't know he had one of those.
Oh wow.
And that was a really interesting, signed first editions. I'm sure first edition paperback, but then also Place of Pride, that 2-volume galley, which is really special. So pretty cool.
There was a moment in 2019, I think, where he was he considering inviting us down to record with him for an interview in LA?
Yeah, I think that was a possibility, and that we were talking to him about doing a recording or having him on our show. And then by the time we got around to discussing it more, the COVID hit, and a few months later, that was kind of the end of the road. So, but maybe in another timeline,
that could have been cool.
Actually had an on the record sort of conversation with him.
Yeah, I'm sorry we missed the chance to do that. That would have been sweet.
So, in 2025, did you read a lot, Dave?
No, I did not, Matt. I had a shitty output year of reading. I think I only read about 17 or 18 books in 2025, which I'm embarrassed to admit for someone who, is an English teacher and does a literary podcast. But as I was telling you just before we hit record, I've already read like 6 books in 2026 because I got an e-reader for Christmas. So now I have a book I read at night on that when I come to bed late, and then I have a paper book. So I'm already off to a good start for 2026. So stay tuned for next year. I'll have a lot more to say on the reading front. But how about you, Matt? Did you read a lot this year?
No, it was also kind of a tougher year for me. I don't track my reading as much as some other people. And I don't really read the way that a lot of other people read. Like, I don't finish as many books as I should, probably, because I buy so many fucking books. Like, I'll go and buy like 10 books, and then I'll read 10 pages of 5 of them and say, no, that's not really for me. And then I'll go read 30 pages of another 2 or 3 of them and say, okay, I kind of get it. It's fine, whatever. And I don't talk about those books on the show because I don't have much to say about them. And then out of those 10, maybe, I'll finish 2 of them. But I did finish a bunch of books. I didn't track exactly how many. But, I kind of also was screwed up by, when I was younger, working in book publishing and working editorial, where like you don't have time to read every word of every book sometimes. And so you reading like an editor is often just like, you're dipping in, dipping out, you're skimming stuff, you're going back to something that you read 10 years ago and reading a few pages of it. So anyways, I did, completely read, I don't know, a couple dozen books, but I felt like I was in a slump for a while. But I feel like you, I feel like I'm out of it now, and I'm on a pretty good streak right now.
Okay. All right.
So January coming back. Been good. February has been good. So
all right. We both made New Year's resolutions that are happening.
Yes.
That's always a New Year's resolution for me, is read more books, finish more video games that I buy. I kind of do video games the way you talk about books there, where I just like buy a game, play it for 2 hours, never touch it again. Don't finish it.
And you're like, okay, I get it.
It hasn't compelled me past that point. Like, whatever, move on. Yeah. So you got something of a top 5, Matt?
I got something of a top 5.
Okay. What's your first on your list?
Well, I was going to say, first of all, they're in no particular order.
Sure.
I'm not ranking them, and I would say it's more like my top 5 slots, and in some cases, I will be combining a couple of things. I did move one thing out of my top 5 because I think we're going to interview the author next week, and so. Books that we read for Concavity, I should say, we do read quite a number of books just for this show, and we never count those in our top 5 or top 10.
So I have to cut your book out, is what that means, Matt. And
I didn't even think of that.
Brandon
That's fine.
Hobson's new book. I got to cut out Jonathan Letham's book that we had him on to talk about this year. So those books excluded because they're Pantheon. We got 5 other books each for you.
Yes, I forget that I did put out a book in 2025, and we did talk about it on this show. And it's sort of designed to be read over the summer, and so summer's coming up. Feel free to read that one pretty quickly over the summer. We also in 2025 we got a new book by Joy Williams, a new Knausgaard, Mark Danielewski. You mentioned Jonathan Lethem, so it was a good year. I was looking what's on my to buy list for 2026. We get a huge new William T. Vollmann book this year. Table
that's
for
what
Fortune.
He does.
I'm looking forward to that multi-volume set.
2,600 pages approximately.
Something like that.
I'm just kidding. I don't know.
I mean, it's multi-volumes.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. Yeah.
And then we also get a new Ben Lerner this year. We got the new George Saunders in 2026. New Camille Bordas, new Dave Eggers, new Valeria Luiselli. So lots of new stuff coming out this year that I'm looking forward to. But
I just saw George Saunders last week in Vancouver, the Vancouver Writers Festival. He was in conversation.
Do you want to say anything about that?
Yeah, it was great. I went over on Friday, and it was in a big cathedral downtown. Really nice, beautiful old church. And he was in conversation with a UBC creative writing professor. They talked about Vigil for about an hour and a half, and it was just very conversational, very Saunders was very much himself and seemed very comfortable. He started with an apology to Canada, for what America is perpetrating on the world right now.
That's insane.
There was a brief Q&A. I stood in the signing lineup for a while, my friend and I, but it didn't move in 15 minutes, and I looked up and I saw there was a guy at the front of the line with 10 books, getting 10 books signed by George, and was kind of like, oh, buddy, read the room, like, look back. So I ended up having to bail on the lineup, unfortunately, because I was with some friends and they wanted to go do something. So I didn't get a chance to talk to George, but shout out to Pierre, who's a listener of the show from Victoria. We've gone out for a beer once. He was there. We talked. I passed on some stickers for him to give to George, Wallace Society Concavity show, and he passed them on, and George seemed pleased, he said, so that was cool.
Yeah, I remember going to see John Updike a couple of times.
Oh, yeah.
Read and sign books, and later in life, this was the late 90s, there would be people in line with like grocery sack full of book, like mass market paperbacks, and dude never complained.
Yeah.
Publicly, was super gracious and generous, and would sit there and quietly just sign stacks and bags of books. And I remember just thinking, like, this is before I had an iPhone, and it's just like, you got to just kind of stand there and twiddle your thumbs for an hour to get to the front of the line. So.
Yeah, doing the math, it seemed to me it was going to be at least 2 hours to get to the front of the line for Saunders. I heard they moved it along, like they probably got some handlers up there eventually, and we're like, okay, probably put a limit on how many books you could get signed. And but yeah.
Yeah. All right, moving on.
Cool. Tell me about one of your books.
Number one on my list is a book by Jose Skinner, and it's called The Search Committee. And The Search Committee is a sort of double entendre. I do know Jose. He lives here in Austin. I would consider him a friend. He and his wife run the bookstore in town called Alienated Majesty.
Oh, you've talked about that place.
If you're ever in Austin, go check it out. This book is published by Piñata Books, which is an imprint of Arte Publico Press, which is published by the University of Houston. University of Houston has a really wonderful creative writing program where they publish award-winning journal called Gulf Coast, which I really love. So Jose, he's published two other books, short story collections, published by University of New Mexico Press, University of Nevada Press. This book is a hilarious novel set on the border of Texas and Mexico, and it's an academic novel. It's about a tenure track candidate for a job who flies in to visit this university right on the border of Mexico, and the bumbling professor who picks her up from the airport says, "Oh, Mexico's right here. We could walk across the border and have lunch." So they go across the border into Mexico and have lunch, and basically he loses her. And it's like, oh shit, I lost the candidate. And so the search committee refers to, not only are they searching for someone to fill this job, he's searching for her, of like, oh God, where is she? So he has to go back to the university and kind of lie. Like, he goes back and they're like, okay, where's the candidate? And he's like, she's still at the hotel getting ready. I picked her up. She'll be here in a minute. Like, I'll go. And so he rushes out the door and it's like, crosses the border again and is going looking for her. And all of this sort of madcap adventures ensue. But it's a really smart book. I mean, he's an incredibly smart writer who knows a lot about life in South Texas, life in Mexico, the cartel wars, what it's like to be actually kidnapped. Like, this is part of it, is that the professor, I mean, this isn't a spoiler alert, it's on the back cover copy, is like kidnapped, and this professor trying to cover his ass. I think it's a sign of maturity of a writer if you can write comically, like comedically.
Sure, yeah.
So he doesn't take himself super seriously. Like, even though there is a really serious side to the book about, living on the border and working at a small sort of underfunded public university, it's a really fucking funny book. And I just plowed through it and I loved it. And it was one of those books where, like, it's plot driven, right? Like you want to know like what happens, how the hell is he going to find her and get her back, and not lose his job in the process? And is she going to obviously not want this job now that she got kidnapped during the the, the interview process?
Interview process, yeah.
Right. So that's
Hilarious.
a really great book, and I feel like it should get more attention because it's published by such a small press, like many great literary books these days.
Yeah.
The Search Committee, Jose Skinner, highly recommend it. And if you like that, you would like his other books of short stories.
Cool. All right. Nice. Speaking of books that are hilarious and made me laugh, one of the books on my list from this year was Lesser Ruins by Mark Haber, which Camille Bordas recommended to us in her bonus episode as one of her top books of the year. It's a stream of consciousness about a college professor who wants to write a book-length essay about Montaigne, the French philosopher. And he's, as the book goes on, like more and more complicating factors about his life get revealed, such as that his wife, has like a mental illness where she thinks there's aliens outside the windows, and so all the house is kind of blacked out. His son is a DJ, and so there's a very wide exploration of like DJ culture and like underground DJ music, and some artists that I like are mentioned in the book, like Fortet and stuff. So it's kind of fun. And then a really huge theme in the book is coffee, and this professor refers to like a coffee incident that happened during one of his classes throughout the book, and eventually you come to learn what that is. And it's this hilarious kind of revelation about the way that he's making coffees during his lectures under his lectern with a very like expensive Italian coffee machine, like espresso machine, like a coffee shop grade machine. It's super funny. There's a part where he talks about instant coffee for about 4 or 5 pages that I was like crying laughing reading it, and Rachel was looking at me like I was a crazed person. I'm happy to offer a short paragraph of that if you're interested.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. So he's at his friend Kleist's cabin. So he's talking about coffee. A habit necessitated by the revolting taste Kleist's coffee left in my mouth, because each cup of instant coffee required a mint immediately after. Because it wasn't simply a case of Kleist's instant coffee being terrible, which undoubtedly was, but no amount of sugar or cream could mask its foul repugnance, because, bizarrely, it was insipid and bland. An impossible combination curiously mastered by the can of instant coffee I'd seized from his cabin. And already I'd been concocting nicknames for this terrible swill: Hades blend, excrement roast, fecal latte. Charming monikers that lifted my spirits while I forced down another cup of that heinous swill that wouldn't make the grade at a gas station or truck stop or low-end kiosk. Coffee so rank and repugnant it made a person question the decisions in one's life, the large and the small, the seemingly innocuous decisions made decades earlier, those so-called forks in the road culminating in the moment one found themselves holding the cup, gagging at the noxious flavor, outright marveling, as in, how did I end up drinking this? Worse, drink this willingly, because it was truly terrible coffee. And it goes on like that for like 4 pages, and it's so funny. So if you're into like coffee snobbery and academia and all that kind of stuff, Lesser Ruins is probably my like one of my highest reads of the year. Loved it.
Wow. That's interesting because I picked up this book yesterday at the bookstore, and I'm familiar with Haber. Of course, his books have gotten a lot of attention in our circles, probably not enough, but I'm really glad to hear this review from you, because I guess I was disinclined to like his books from the beginning, because they to me follow a trend that is in sort of contemporary American fiction right now, which is a lot of writers trying to idolize or mimic Thomas Bernhard and Heinrich von Kleist, like you just said, like von Kleist or von Kleist. Like that was also a big part of anyway, I don't want to belabor this point too much, but like I think the stream of consciousness thing, no paragraph breaks, long paragraphs, long digressions, is very much like Thomas Bernhard's influence.
Did he write Magic Mountain?
That was Thomas Mann. Anyways, I I do think that I'm like probably the target market for this thing, and so also feel like I'm resistant to it because of that. Like,
Yeah.
like, oh, this book should
Don't
be
at
right
me.
up your wheelhouse, Matt, and I'm just like, ah, fuck.
Uh,
But that's really good to hear. And he was a Texas guy. I think he moved, Mark Haber, but
oh yeah.
really interesting guy. All right, number one for me, Jose Skinner. Number two, I want to talk about this book, The Splendid Ticket by Bill Cotter.
Oh, okay.
And this is
Oh, that's
published
nice.
by McSweeney's.
Yeah, I was gonna say that looks pretty McSweeney's esque.
His previous two books were also published by McSweeney's, Parallel Apartments and Fever Chart.
I've read Fever Chart. Yeah, one of the best covers ever. Hey,
It's really great.
what a
I think this one
gorgeous
is also
book, yeah.
really great.
Yeah, that's great.
And I think this book came out at the end of 2022, and I didn't hear much about it. So when I saw it at the bookstore, I was like, oh, I really want to read this. And it's basically about like a poor couple in Texas who the wife wins a huge lottery ticket. It's
Okay.
like $300 million, $200 million after.
Yeah, y'all
the
have
lump
real big
sum.
ones down there. Huh?
That's what she said.
Like half a billion.
Sorry, you can cut that.
Yeah, I'll definitely cut. I'll definitely cut that in air quotes.
So what it really is about is like a family dynamic, right? Like it seems like the type of people that money would solve all their problems. But of course, we know that money doesn't solve all your problems. And yet
Not all of
we
them.
all take jobs to get money. Money is great. I like money. But what you really get into is, a wife who is struggling with personal pain and puts up with a husband who is a gambling addict, not great for someone who wins the lottery.
Yeah, right.
And it's very much like a plot driven book as well, in that he's a really smart writer, does a lot of unexpected things, but you want to know, like, okay, what's going to happen? And in order to tell that story, he backs it up to, how this guy deals with a bookie who's always coming to their house, or his gambling debts in general, always has debts. And then they have a daughter. You get into the daughter's story. So there's a lot of digressions before you finally come back around to, okay, they got this money. Now what? What can money fix and what can't it fix?
Cool.
And, I love that it's set in sort of central Texas. Some of it's hill country, some of it's Austin. And if you've read any of his other books, you know that he is a book lover himself. So there's a lot of literary references throughout. Cotter is also an antiquarian book dealer, knows a lot about old books. And I have a couple of quibbles with this book. I'm not saying it's perfect, but I really enjoyed it. And I wanted to finish it quickly because I wanted to know what happens. It's one of those books that is like, I would say it's more plot driven than his other two books, Fever Chart and Parallel Apartments.
Cool.
So
I read Fever Chart like 20 years ago, I want to say. Like, maybe not 20,
it's
but
not
like
that old, maybe.
18, 15, like a long time ago.
No, it's not that old.
Is it not?
It's not that old.
Okay.
Um,
Stand
we,
corrected.
we can double check that, but I think it's more
Yeah, I'm
like
curious.
10 to 15 years old.
Yeah, it felt like a long time ago. Yeah, that's cool.
Anyways, Bill Cotter, published by McSweeney's, The Splendid Ticket. Go check it out.
2009, okay. So we're like 17 years.
That's longer than I thought, but
Yeah. Cool.
I guess it is 2026 now. So
Yeah, hard to believe that. Have you met Bill Cotter? Have you had
I
your
did meet
paths
him
crossed?
briefly. I did meet him briefly once. I doubt he would remember it, and I don't think we talked for very long. But just being in Austin and crossing paths with literary people for so many years, I had met him once. So.
Nice.
Really great dude.
Cool. That's great.
What about you, number two?
Okay, let's say The Nickel Boys by Colson Whitehead, which, people have heard of this book. It won the Pulitzer Prize a few years ago.
Made into a movie as well.
Finally got around to reading it, and I haven't watched the movie yet. Have you watched it?
I have not.
You have not watched it. Okay. I still also haven't watched Small Things Like These, which is the adaptation of Claire Keegan's short novella, which I also love. But I gotta get to both of those soon. Anyways, yeah, I thought Nickel Boys was really compelling. My mom even read it, and she said after she read it, like, wow, this is such like a Dave book, like, which is to say dark and, you know, depressing and has heavy themes. I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah, do you want to try to summarize it?
Yeah, it's about some boys in a like juvenile detention center in, was it Alabama or one of the southern U.S. states?
Was it Florida? I think it was
maybe Florida. Yeah, in the 1950s or 60s. I read this like early 2025, so some of the details are a little bit hazy. But you know, it kind of reminded me a fair bit of The Devils of Southpaw, and like civil rights is a massive theme in this book, and the institutional racism that these boys endure at this juvenile holding school. There's kind of an escape narrative at the end as well, kind of, or like a flight narrative, kind of similar to Devils of Southpaw. So some really cool overlaps between those two books. But yeah, it just leaves you with a sense of like just despairing injustice at American racism, American institutional.
Although Canada also has a pretty bad track record with some
oh my gosh,
institutional schools of indigenous
residential
peoples,
schools, yeah,
right,
of course, yeah,
and mass
and
graves.
we've learned
there's a cemetery
graves, yeah.
part of it as well. So.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, there was a really horrific discovery in Kamloops, British Columbia, which is like really close to where I grew up in Kelowna, a couple hours away, of like 315 bodies discovered that were like undocumented, undisclosed to the families. Just so Canada is also an embarrassing place to be from. I'm feeling more and more, and it feels really complicated to be from a country with like a really dark colonial history, and like I feel like we're taking some really radical positive steps towards reconciliation, but it still feels, you know, like really raw. I've taught several courses on just Indigenous literature in the last few years, and the depths of trauma and what went down in this country is just deeply fucked up. So our countries share, you know, similar kind of systemically racist past with these kinds of institutions. But yeah, Colson Whitehead's writing is always good. His prose is beautiful. It's really
I did
moving.
read this book as well. I think I read it in 2024. And it's short. I did love it. And I do want to see the movie. The movie is supposed to be like one of the best adaptations of a literary work in years. So I've read nothing but good things about the movie.
Yeah.
But I didn't. When I saw the trailer for the movie, it wasn't like what I was picturing in my mind, and so I almost avoided it because of that.
Yeah.
You know,
like, would you watch an Infinite Jest movie if it ever got made for this reason?
I mean, sure, but it would be really like I would sort of like detach my body and see myself watching it and being like, it would be, I would be thinking about it rather than enjoying it. And I don't think it would work as a movie. It's too freaking long. You know?
Sure, or like a TV miniseries or something.
Got like 10 episodes or something.
Yeah. Yeah. How about you? What's number 3?
So number 3 is this is where I'm cheating and combining a couple things into one slot. So in 2025, I went to Iceland, and I was going to read some Icelandic literature in advance. And I remember many years ago, maybe even when I was a teenager, reading some Halldór Laxness and thinking like, wow, this is so cool. It's like set in Iceland. But I didn't remember many details. And so I tried to read what a lot of people think is his best book, called Independent People, before going. And like, I just could not get into it. I was like, oh shit, this is just, you know, a shepherd out in the middle of nowhere. I was really struggling with the story and the prose. And so I put that down and only read books about Iceland that I bought in Iceland. And so I went to several bookstores in Reykjavik, and the first one that I bought and loved is this book, Farewell, Mr. Puffin, by Paul Haney. Paul Haney.
Yeah.
And this is a nonfiction, and it's a true story about him sailing from England to Iceland, around Iceland in a small little boat. And he's done like another voyage like this before, and you really get to learn about like damn, what is that like to sail in a little boat from England to Iceland?
Yeah.
And he's sort of on a mission to just see a puffin in the wild.
Okay.
That's one of the undercurrents of the book. And you really get a good glimpse of what it's like to not only circumnavigate Iceland, which we got to do, but also to, see the different types of people in these little villages. And he's very candid about what he thinks about them, and just a really strong writer. I'd never heard of him, but he's got a bunch of other books. The most famous one, I guess, is called One Wild Song. Wild Song is the name of his boat. And so I fell in love with this book. If you ever go to Iceland, get this book. Even if you're just curious about what it's like to sort of sail around. Like, I love being out in the ocean. Similar to me, like the desert, where like you look across the landscape and it's just the same thing. And there's a little bit of wildlife. But it can be tough to find. And, we did get to see puffins on the trip. And so that was kind of magical.
Did you?
That's finding puffins. The other book that I got at the same time was this little book called 101 Reykjavik by Helgrimur Helgason. And I knew nothing about Helgrimur Helgason is like an artist, and he's a writer, and he's done all kinds of interesting stuff. This book is also funny. I would call it comic, but it's really about like the Reykjavik underworld. And so I wanted to read something about like, what is the real people? What is it like to live here? And I don't mean like out as a shepherd. I mean in Reykjavik, like in the 20th century, right? Like, and this is sort of like, I would compare it to Train Spotting or something, where there's a lot of sex and drugs and nightlife culture and just hardcore alcoholism, and also, unemployment, just sort of living off the land, and yet a lot of relationship building, right? A lot of people you meet at the pub, and girls who, this small town, right? There's only like 200,000 people in Reykjavik, maybe even less than that in Reykjavik.
Yeah.
And when I was there, like, I felt like it's all like Disney World, like it's all tourists. Everyone you see in the summer there, it's like the only locals that I really saw in Reykjavik were like people working at the shops.
Right. Yeah.
Everyone else is a tourist, like on the street. And so I was very curious, like, what is it like to live here when there's no tourists, or when the tourists go home at night? Like, what do they do? And so this is the book. Like, it's translated. Was it translated or written in English? I don't know. Translated. It was written in Icelandic. It is freaking great. Like, I would say if you like Train Spotting, Irvine Welsh, if you like, urban kind of, I'm trying to even compare, maybe like Bukowski, like underground, like, guy.
Yeah, he came up last episode, didn't he?
Yeah. So that's great. When I was also at the airport on the way home, I was like, oh, there's a 1,000-page book on the shelf. So the Sagas of Icelanders. I got to buy that. And so I read a bunch of it, but it's really great.
It's nonfiction?
It's nonfiction. This is like their ancient mythology, right? Like going back 1,000 years. This is prefaced by Jane Smiley. It's got a blurb from Seamus Haney. And being there, I realized, like, to understand even a lot of the geography, you would need to understand like these old sagas. And so I had sort of heard some of them secondhand, but then, I wanted to read them for myself. The names of mountains, the names of ice caves, they all come from these ancient sagas going back to the year like 875, when Norse people first landed in Iceland. So that is a really remarkable book that you can get it all in this huge 1,000-page book of the Sagas of Icelanders. Cool. And it's very readable. I recommend that book as well. So that's my slot from 2025. 3 books about Iceland. I knew nothing about it going in, and so I felt like I learned a lot.
Yeah. Have you ever read McSweeney's issue 15? It's all Icelandic writers. It's a short story collection, like most McSweeney's. I read that a long time ago, like back in the Bill Cotter Fever Chart days. And I remember the preface saying that like Iceland despite its incredibly small population, has just like a really profound cultural emphasis on like art creation. So like everyone for Christmas and like birthdays like writes each other's stories and like makes things, and so it's just kind of this like in the cultural ether that you just everyone's a writer and everyone is just creating all the time, and that kind of stuck with me. So that's really cool.
Yeah, so that was my number 3 is Icelandic fiction,
Cool.
travel writing, mythology. All of it was really, really great. And I do hope to someday go back and finish Independent People. I'm sure it's good. I just couldn't get into it.
Cool. Very nice. I had James by Percival Everett on my list, but we covered that pretty robustly last time with Stefan. So
yeah, I felt like we
I'm
did
gonna
talk about that a bit.
yeah. So I'll just kind of mention it, but bump it and say that another book I really liked this year that I read was "You Too Can Have a Body Like Mine" by Alexandra Kleeman.
Oh, I know this book. Yeah.
Yeah, Mike Miley recommended it a couple of years back, I think, and I got around to reading it this year. And it's just a really kind of wacky, off the rails book that starts with kind of like an interrogation of like food and diet. It's a novel, but it goes to some really weird, bizarre places, almost like a Yorgos Lanthimos film, like a Begonia, right, or like Poor Things, where it just gets kind of,
or what's the Margaret Qualley
dream
movie?
like.
The Substance. The Substance.
Oh, I watched
like
that this year. Yeah, I really liked that movie.
Yeah.
I mean, the ending was maybe a bit too on the nose.
Yeah.
But overall, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed certainly like the first 90% of it a lot. It was pretty compelling. Yeah, so a lot of kind of weird body stuff going on in this novel. But have you read anything else by Kleeman?
Yeah.
She's come up a few times on the show.
Yeah, she has. And, when this book came out, I think it was her MFA thesis, basically. And it was very hot. Like, she was very popular when it came out.
Yeah.
Part of the sort of Paris Review. I think it was even serialized in the Paris Review. And to me, it also reminded me a bit of a Harry Crews book. I don't know if we've talked about Harry Crews much, but he's like one of my favorite writers. And he had written a book about sort of body modification through weightlifting, but also he's big interested in like karate and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, Alexandra Kleeman I think she's a very smart experimental writer. I actually saw she just published an article about Letterboxd. Do you use Letterboxd? Yeah.
I made an account, a decade ago or more, and recently some friends peer pressured me to get back on it and cite the movies that I've been watching, because I watched so many movies in the last year. Yeah. And they're like, put them on Letterboxd. I'm like, okay. What does she have to say about it? What's her thesis?
I mean, the article just came out today, so I don't know. I think it's
that's fresh.
It's more like I just from reading the summary of it, it looks more like film criticism is alive through Letterboxd. But yeah, her fiction, I think is really good and experimental, and yeah, she should get more readers.
More props, yeah. That's cool. All right, 4.
Number 4 for me is a novel by a guy named Andrew Martin called Early Work. And it's a book that I probably bought a few years ago and just now got around to reading it in 2025. And I devoured it. And I did see he has a new book coming out this year, so I'm excited about that. It's called Downtime. It comes out in March. This book, I think, came out in 2018, paperback in 2019. It was a notable book of the year for the New York Times, but I don't know how many people really read it. And, I try to read some stuff, even though I'm reading like Icelandic sagas from 1,000 years ago. I'm also trying to read stuff that's like about this moment in time and that we live in. And this is very much of like, contemporary politics and sort of sexual relations of what it's like to be a struggling writer who is in a relationship but then meets someone maybe more interesting, and just how you navigate your friend group. I would say in the same vein, I read Rejection by Tony Tilamuthi, and like that book was fucking crazy wild, but says something interesting about this moment we live in, right? And I'll mention a third book in this slot, right? Andrew Martin, this is a really great book, especially if you're a white straight male like myself. You might be interested in this story.
We need more books for guys like us, right?
Tony Tillamuthi. Well, I mean, I'm not going to apologize for reading books about people like me. So I can, read plenty of other stuff that is not like me. But the other one I read is by a woman named Erin Summers called The 10-Year Affair. And I would say that's also very much similar story from a woman's point of view. And I really plowed through that. These are all sort of like plot, like you want to know what happens next, page turners. And Andrew Martin, I think, does something unique in this, like clearly super educated dude. And it's ultimately like, it's about bigger themes, like about ambition. It's about, love and friendship. Like how do you write about those things in a way that doesn't sound trite? So I thought it was really good. That would be my number 4.
Cool. Very nice. I got around finally to reading The Third Reich by Roberto Bolaño this year, which you've been recommending to me for years.
I'm really happy to hear it, Dave, because I did love it.
I loved it. It was a great recommendation. I'm sorry I didn't get to it earlier. But you mentioned it primarily for me because of the interest in like very deep strategic board game love.
Yeah.
It's about a guy who's on vacation, and he's got this massive World War II simulator game called The Third Reich on a giant table in his hotel room, and he's kind of coming back to his room and playing it, and like he's like very competitively invested in this game, and he's like a highly ranked player in the scene, and it's just about his like relationship with his girlfriend and the people they meet on vacation, and he gets this one guy interested in the game. And so I related heavily to this novel, just like, how do I get strangers as interested in this very niche game as I am, and try to get more people playing it. So I thought that was a pretty hilarious personal connection. And Bolaño is just obviously so great, and his writing's incredible. It's a pretty existential book, I would say. Like, it feels pretty depressing and in a lot of ways are depressive. But yeah, I thought it was a great one. And like, it's kind of not one of the main books that you hear about when people talk about Bolaño, hey?
I think that's true, although it was serialized in the Paris Review when it first came out.
Okay.
I think it's, it's definitely not a top 3 Bolaño. Like, I wouldn't put it on the same level as Savage Detectives or 2666. But I would say that for me, it's an underrated one. Like, I think it holds up every time I think it's a great summer book as well, because it's set at sort of a beach resort. When I've gone back to read it, I'm like, wow, this is so great. I love El Quemado, the burned guy. This is a sort of mysterious Indian figure.
Renting paddle boards on the beach, paddle boats. Yeah.
Paddle boats. Yeah.
Really cool character.
But I'm glad you got around to reading it, because I think the board game aspect of it is just so good. So good.
Yeah, it's well realized, and it's really compelling, and it's very specific in a way that I appreciated. And it's a fictional game too, right? Like, the game doesn't exist.
Well, it's based on a World War II simulation game called The Rise and Fall of the Third Reich.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
And there's
that
certainly lots
game.
of those kind of games, yeah.
And that is a real game. So I do think it's based on reality, but he fictionalizes it.
Yeah. I would say I liked it a lot more than Savage Detectives, actually, which is probably a controversial take.
I think that's fair. I mean, it's not for everyone.
Yeah. But I remember Adam Levin saying that he hated Savage Detectives the first time he read it, and the second time he read it, he loved it, like really loved it. So maybe I just need to reread that book. Or not, or just read something new.
Read something new.
I'll take your word for it, Adam. Yeah. All right, number 5, Matt. What do you got?
Number 5, I have The Selected Letters of John Updike.
Oh wow.
So
Okay.
back to straight white male for you. Um, but I've been a long time fan of Updike's writing,
Sure. Yeah.
and I'm a member of the John Updike Society. And I read in 2014. So Updike died in January of 2009.
2009. Okay.
Um, uh,
That's so close to Wallace, huh?
I know it was all within a couple
Hmm.
months.
Hmm.
Adam Bagley published a biography of Updike that came out in 2014, and it was good, but I felt like I didn't learn very much.
Hmm.
Whereas with this, I feel like this is almost a better biography of the man himself. And I would say this with most writers that I admire, David Foster Wallace being one of them, is like any writing about the man is usually not as good as the writing from the man himself.
Hmm.
And this was just more of revelation after revelation for me. One is that he consistently wrote letters home to his mother, to his family. He grew up only child with his parents and his maternal grandparents. So he lived in a house in a little town called Plowville, Pennsylvania. And
Okay.
so he would write home until his grandparents died. He would always write, "Dear Plowvillians." And I mean, this is for the first, 15 years of the book, or 20 years or something. "Dear Plowvillians," every week, sometimes multiple times a week, just what was going on in his day-to-day life. And then eventually it becomes his relationship with his mother, where he's corresponding with his mother constantly. And then there's a middle section in the 70s where he is writing to his mistress, his lovers, and like, this is a really bad dude in a lot of ways. Like, he cheated on his wife a lot, and like,
I've heard that. Yeah.
I sort of knew that on one level, but it's another thing to see him writing letters to some of these women who, the main one was the woman who became his second wife, Martha. And there's some really graphic freaking letters to her in this book. But then to even some of the other women he had more like casual affairs with. Like, it's really kind of shocking and striking. It's one thing to read a biography and say he had an affair with this person. It's another thing to read his letter to her.
Yeah, that's pretty intimate.
It's
Jeez.
very intimate. And so,
Paper trail.
yeah, and that pretty much stops after he gets remarried in
Okay.
the mid to late 70s. And then
How
most
many
of
wives did he have? Like 3?
just two.
Oh, 2. Okay.
But then there's a lot more of like people writing to him, editors and other writers who want something from him. And that's interesting to a degree, like his professional life. One other thing you learned about it is like what a fast writer he was. Like, there's a period where he's on vacation in this Caribbean island of Anguilla, and he's there for 5 weeks, and he writes like 4 short stories and answers a ton of mail and writes all of these other sort of commentary pieces.
Wow.
This is on vacation. Like, he
Yeah.
wrote 4 New Yorker stories, including the title story for one of his collections, Pigeon Feathers, while on vacation.
That's crazy.
And it goes all the way up to the end of his life. And that was another sort of revelation, is like, even in his final days when he's in the hospital dying of lung cancer, he is writing to an editor about some corrections. He is writing to an editor about a piece that he owes them. And like, he worked every single day. And that's part
Wow.
of being, freelance writer. It's like, you have to be hustling all the time. And a lot of people can't do it because they don't want to be writing on their day off, and I don't mean like, writing about like how their feelings are. I mean, writing about like, we need to go back and adjust the spacing in this paragraph and shit. Like, it's very, very grindstone type work. So I learned a lot from the book. It's a huge, thick book. I was very excited when it came out. It didn't get a ton of reviews. And so I found that kind of interesting. So I wanted to make sure that I took my time going through it and sort of writing my own notes and talking about it today.
Cool. That
What about
sounds
you? What's
intriguing.
number 5?
Five's hard. I got like a kind of a toss-up between a few. Blackouts by Justin Torres is a book that I liked and enjoyed this year. Jerusalem Chronicles from the Holy City, a graphic novel by Guy Delis. French.
I love that.
I really like this book. Bluets by Maggie Nelson is a book that I read for the first time this year for some weird reason.
That's a huge book for me. Yeah.
That's a great book, yeah. So of those three in kind of the fifth slot, I think Jerusalem is the one that I enjoyed the most because Rich and I lived there in Tel Aviv for 6 months in 2014, and the number of times when I was reading this book where I just was like, yes, oh my gosh, that's totally how I experienced that place, that city, that settlement, whatever, was just like, I felt like I was kind of reading my own life in a lot of ways, and so it was like a really exhilarating read by virtue of like my autobiography. And the way that I came to this book is you actually recommended this to me a long time ago, and I forgot about it, like most recommendations. And then we were like on a nearby island, there's lots of islands around Vancouver Island, like little satellite islands. We were staying in Airbnb, and they had a great bookshelf there, like so many books that we like. And I was just like, oh, I want to meet the people who live here. They have great taste. And one of the books was Jerusalem, and I just picked it up out of interest and flipped through, and was like, oh, this looks cool. Read the first 10 pages, and then like 2 hours later I'd read the whole book, so yeah. I read it in like a really short amount of time. But for anyone who spent any amount of time living in Israel or the West Bank, Jerusalem Chronicles from the Holy City like hits really hard. It's great.
All of his books I think are that way, like the first person narratives, the graphic style of them. His new book, which I've not read, is about Muybridge, the photographer. But like he has a book Pyongyang, which is great. He's such a great writer and storyteller. Like I've never been to Tel Aviv, but I was like, I get the general sense of what it's like. And I think that similar to you, like his wife was working for Doctors
MSF.
Without Borders.
Yeah. Rich wasn't working for MSF, but like a similar kind of peace building organization.
Right.
But yeah, so like the partner along for the ride was just like my life. They had kids in that book though, which we didn't have kids yet. So I felt that was a grace, but he's like driving his kids to daycare in Jerusalem and stuff. And that felt complicated. But yeah, just a sense of like sheer incredulosity. Like you're just looking around at this place and you're like, how is it like this? Like, this is so wild. This is so crazy. Yeah. This is so intractably bizarre, the way things are here with the occupation of Palestine and many other things. So I found it to be like really, really impactful.
Do you want to mention your other honorable mentions?
I kind of just did. Maybe I would add one more, The Repeat Room by Jesse Ball. It's kind of a cool dystopian, really short little book. I really liked his book. It was Auto Portrait. That was recommended to us, I think, by Adam Levin as well a few years ago. And so read a couple now by Jesse Ball. He's great. How about for you? Any final thoughts on the year in reading?
Yeah, I wanted to give one shout out to a book called Viscera, 8 Voices from Poland. That's about new emerging poets in Poland, and it's a mix. Let me get the book and show it to you. Hold on.
Cool.
It's edited by my friend Mark Tardy, and this book it's got the Polish as well as the English translations, and it's got a really great sort of introduction about how Poland really nourishes poets. Like there's been a lot of famous like Szymborska and Czesław Miłosz who have come from Poland. So it's got a really great tradition, and these are sort of like who would be the next young outstanding experimental poet or national poet from Poland. And I'm underselling it because I think it's better than that. And I try to read a book of poetry at least once a year. I've also been trying to read more plays, so I'm gonna give a shout out to this. Probably the best book of poetry I read. Cool. Just because it's a good mix. Like I like these edited anthologies that have a lot of different types of poetry in them. And I also wanted to say, when we were talking about, I was making a list of like books that I'm looking to get in 2026. I neglected to mention we also get a new Deb Olin Unferth book in 2026. So I'm definitely looking forward to that as well.
Yeah, me too. That'll be good. Been seeing lots of stuff on Instagram around about it. Lots of ARCs, people kind of pre-reviewing it. Mm-hmm.
Yes. But yeah, I think that's let's call it a wrap on 2025.
Cool. All right. Stay tuned for our bonus episode where we're going to talk about some other kinds of media like music, TV, movies, podcasts, stuff like that. If you're a Patreon subscriber, we so appreciate your continued support in the last year. Without y'all, we could not continue to do this. So thank you so much. We'll also link a playlist of music from 2025, best of 2025, in the show notes of this episode. We'll talk more about music in the bonus piece to come, but anyone can access the playlist, so I hope you enjoy that. On January 1st every year, I start a new playlist, best of that year, and I just add to it throughout the year, and by the end, there's like 70 songs on it, several hours worth of music, so take a listen to that if you're interested. Final thoughts, Matt, about where people can get in touch if they want to ask us questions, if they want to reach out, say hey.
I would say follow us on Instagram at Concavity Show. Email us concavityshow@gmail.com. All of our episodes are also on YouTube, so you can check them out there.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. That's a wrap on 2025. Stay tuned for more Concavity Show episodes coming this year. We got a few
lined up,
kind of mapped out, lined up, more or less. So we're trucking on. Thanks for a good year, Matt.
Thanks for listening.
Catch me now as I sing into darkness. I thought to be extinct.
I need help.
We have a special guest here. It's Winston A. Laird. Winston, what was your favorite book you read this year? This is Matt. Do you remember my friend Matt? He's somehow snuck into the recording booth with us today.
You need help.
What's your mom doing?
She's downstairs.
She's downstairs. Okay. So you escaped. We're talking about books. Did you have a favorite book this year, Winston? No. Okay. Cool. Lots of Lego Star Wars in 2025 for this boy.